Hi soulmates, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Treasure's Craft. My name is Treasure Peter. I'd like to quickly give a shout out and recognize my beautiful subscribers that commented on my last video. I made a comment that if they watch up to a particular point, they should comment pocket, and they did. Thank you so much, Dinah Living, and thank you so much, Udwak Peter. I really appreciate you guys for watching up till the end. On today's tutorial, I'll be making this beautiful corporate gown. This corporate gown is so unique and so beautiful. It has an asymmetric neckline with a cape and these beautiful sleeves. Do watch till the end if this is something you're interested in. So to make this gown, I'm going to be making use of this crepe fabric. I made use of 2 yards, but I would advise that you make use of at least 2.5 yards to get a better result, or even 3 yards if your size is bigger than mine. For the combination, I also made use of crepe fabric and it's ½ yard, even though I didn't finish it. For this lining, I'll be using it only for the sleeves part, but you will need a lining for this gown. It is very important, and I made use of a corporate lining. I also used this pattern paper to draft the front part. So let's go straight into the cutting. I'll first be cutting the down part of the gown, and this is the front side. For you to get the width of your folding, you need to have at least your hip measurement divided by 4 plus additional 2 to 3 inches. So the first thing you go ahead to do is to take the length of your gown, starting from the half length. My half length was 15 inches, but I'm going to be starting my measurement from 14.5 because ½ inch will be for the joining of the upper part. So from 14.5, I'll go ahead to take my desired length. So my desired length was about 43 inches, but I used 44 inches because 1 inch will be for aiming the down part. From the half length, I measured to 25 inches to serve as my hip line. Then I draw the line across. So I usually like taking 25 inches and it fits most people, but at times I take 26 inches depending on how tall the person is. And on the hip line, I marked to measure my hip measurement divided by 4, marked what I had, and I added extra 1.5 inch side seam allowance. At the beginning line, I also marked to measure the waist measurement divided by 4. I marked what I had. I'm not going to be adding that allowance because I will not be taking that at the down part. Then I added 1.5 inch side seam allowance before connecting it to the hip line. So guys, at the down part, I measured what I had at the hip line, then took the same thing before taking out 2 inches. Then after that, I connected it to meet up with the hip line in this manner. So just watch the way I'm connecting mine. Then I proceeded to cut it out. After cutting it out, I went ahead to notch the center. So I've gone ahead to place it on another fabric to cut out the back piece. And at the center, I added 1.5 inch zip allowance. I went ahead to open it up at the center. So in order to prevent your zip from folding, you need to take out at least 1 inch or 3/4 inch from the zip allowance part. So I'm going to be marking 3/4 inch there, and then at the hip line, I'm going up by 2 inches. Then I'll connect it in a slant form to meet the hip line. So that 3/4 inch that I'm removing, I'm going to replace it at the side. So I'm proceeding to cut it out at this point, and then at the side I'm going out by 3/4 inch. I also go up by 2 inches from the hip line and then connect it to meet up with that line. So you need to always replace it at the side so there will be no shortage. At this point, I'll just go ahead to cut it out. So after eliminating this 3/4 inch, you need to replace it again from this part. So go ahead to mark the 3/4 inch and connect it back in this slant manner. What this simply means is that this is where the zip is going to pass. So I'll just go ahead to notch that zipper allowance point. At this point, I proceed to open up the front side, and I'll be adding extra material on top of it to stay as an overlap. If you have your lining, it is best to use your lining to turn these two materials, both the main fabric and the lapping. So take note of the center part of the front. At the side of the front, mark out the side seam allowance, and then from the center part, divide what you have into two. That should be where the overlap material should start from. So just mark where it is. I've gone ahead to mark where mine is, and I'm just going to be placing it as an overlap from that point. So take note that you need to keep it very well, arrange it very well. If you have lining, it will be best that you line both the overlapping and the main material, the main front material. So because of how I want to do mine, I want to use aiming gum to fold it. So I'll be going in with extra 1.5 inch, so that when I fold it with aiming gum, I'll be having it at that point. I hope that was easy to understand. So at this point, I'll just go ahead to pin it down. So take note that at the down part of this overlap, I left extra 1/2 inch at the down part before pinning it down. So just go ahead to do what I'm doing. Then I'll just go ahead to trim it out at this side so that it will align. So at this point, I'm done with the cutting of the down part. I'll just go ahead to cut the upper part. So for this front side, I'll be using this pattern paper. This is the starting line, and then I'm going ahead to mark the shoulder to nipple point or bust point. To determine the width of your pattern paper, take your bust measurement divided by 4 plus additional 4 to 5 inches. So next you measure is your shoulder to under bust, then the shoulder to your half length. Note the half length is different from the waistline. So I'll just go ahead to connect the lines across like this and label the lines. So at the shoulder line, I'll go ahead to measure from the center line, shoulder measurements divided by 2. I marked what I had. From the center also, I marked my neck width. I made use of a neck width of 3 inches. At the shoulder point, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant and connected it back to the neck width. To get the chest line from the shoulder slant, I measured and marked my bust circumference divided by 6 inches plus 1.5 inch, and then connected the line to form the chest line and also labeled it. So next, on the chest line, I measured the shoulder measurements divided by 2 and connected it upwards to the shoulder slant. I took the length from the shoulder slant to the chest line and then took the midpoint of it and marked it at that midpoint. And then at the midpoint, I came in by 1/2 inch and marked it. On the chest line, I proceeded to measure the bust circumference divided by 4 and marked it also. I'm going to be connecting at these 3 points to form the armhole. In order to measure the bustier part, I'll be taking my bust span divided by 2 on the half length under bust and bust point, and I connected the 3 lines together. So to take out the bustier at the half length part and the under bust part, I'll be going out with 1 inch, and then at the inner part, I'll be going in with 1/2 inch. This is because I'm not going to be padding this bustier. I usually use 1.5 to the side for the bustier that I will be padding, and 1 inch for this type of bustier. So at the inner part, I'm going ahead to mark 1/2 inch before connecting the lines together. I'll go ahead to connect from the under bust to the bust point using this curved ruler. I'll do the same thing to the other side. This means that I will be cutting out this part. So next thing I did was to mark 4.5 inches from the upper part. You can go ahead to divide from the shoulder slant to the bust point. What you have, you can divide it by 2. So I'm connecting it towards the bust point in this manner, still using a curved ruler. Still along the armhole curve, I came down by 1 inch from that point where I connected to the bust point, and I marked what I had and then connected it back towards the bust point also. So just watch the way I'm connecting it. This part is also going to be taken off. So the next thing I'll do is to extend the down part with 1.5 inch in order to replace this gap. So I'm extending it by 1.5 inch, then connecting it back to this line in a slanted manner, just like you see me doing. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to replace the gap also at the chest line, so it was about ½ inch. So I'm going ahead to replace it, and then I'll form a new armhole at that line. This is like a repetition of what I keep doing all the time on my channel whenever I'm making bustier, but for beginners sake I'm still taking my time to show you guys how to go about it. And on the half length line, I'm going ahead to mark my waist measurements divided by 4, and then I'm replacing the dart, which was about 1½ inch, and I'm going ahead to add the side seam allowance with 1½ inch. I also added it to the chest line, 1½ inch for side seam allowance, before connecting the two lines together. For the neckline, I'll just come down by 1 inch for the neck depth and connect to form the neck. So this is not the main neck. Remember, it's an asymmetric neckline, so we'll still work on the neck later. So at this point, I'm going ahead to cut it out. So next I'll be doing is to work on the neckline to form the asymmetric neckline. So at the left hand side of the neck, I came down by 6.5 inches. Sorry, at this point my camera did not capture all what I did, so I'll just go ahead to explain what I did here. So I came down by 6.5 inches from the shoulder, and I marked it at this other line. This was where I marked it. It was a straight line, and then from that point I went outwards by 1 inch, just like you see, and then I also marked it and then connected it back to that point. And then I also connected it in this manner to form the asymmetric neckline to the other side of the neck width. So that was all I did before cutting it out. I hope it was easy to understand. This is it after cutting it out. I'll just go ahead to cut it out, and I'll be adding ½ inch to the shoulder for joining allowance, ½ inch to the down part for joining allowance, and ½ inch to the bustier area also for joining allowance. I'll go ahead to cut them off the camera. So at this point I'll be cutting the back side. This is just going to be the normal back bodice. So I went ahead to mark the shoulder to half length, adding 1 inch for joining allowance at the half length and the shoulder. And then I connected the lines. At the center back, I measured 1½ inch and marked for the zip allowance from the up part to the down part and connected the lines together. At the shoulder line, I proceeded to measure my shoulder measurements divided by 2 from the center line. I marked what I had. From the center line, I also marked the neck width of 3 inches, just like I took at the front side, and I took a neck depth of 1.5 inch. This is because I'm cutting directly on the fabric for the back. And then I curved to form the neckline. At the shoulder point, I came down by ½ inch and connected it back to the neck width. This is because I'm cutting directly on the fabric, and from that point I came down with my bust circumference measurement divided by 6 plus 2 inches and not 1.5. This is because I came down by ½ inch at the shoulder slant, and then I marked my shoulder measurement divided by 2 and connected it back to the shoulder width. On that chest line, I also marked my bust circumference divided by 4 and then went up with 2 inches before curving it in this manner to form the armhole. At the waistline, I also proceeded to take the waist measurement divided by 4 and marked what I had, and then I added 1 inch for that allowance because I'll be taking that at the upper back part. Then I added 1½ inch side seam allowance. I also added it to the bust measurements before connecting the lines together. In order to prevent zipper bulge, that is the folding part of the zip at the back, I am also going to be taking out 3/4 inch at the down part of the waistline, and I'm connecting it upwards towards the chest line in this manner. So this is the same thing I did to the down part of the skirt part. So I'm also adding it at the side part to replace it back, if not there will be a shortage, and I connected it to the chest line. To further prevent zipper bulge, I'll be going up at the waistline by 1 inch, and then I'll connect it back towards the side seam allowance point using a straight ruler. Then I proceeded to cut it out. So here is it, the back bodice is ready. And this is the front side. I've gone ahead to cut it out and added the necessary allowances. So I want to make use of this pattern paper to cut the front cape. That is the combination part at the upper part. From this straight part, I came down with 2 inches in this manner, just not in a really straight form, just slant it a bit, just like you see me doing. Then at the shoulder part, I marked 1.5 inches and then connected the lines together to form the cape. So guys, you can go ahead to leave it like this, or you can make it to be in a curved manner, just like the way I'm doing mine. Then I proceeded to cut it out. So at this point, I have gone ahead to place it on the combination fabric and cutting it. I added 1/2 inch at the 2 sides and 3/4 inch at the down part, but as for the up part where the neck is, I did not add any allowance. So this is how it's going to be placed. So at this point, I'll go ahead to join the princess dart area for this front side. So take note of the right side and the wrong side and join it to the wrong side. As for the cape, I have gone ahead to add a stay to both sides, and then I'm going ahead to place it, and I'll be joining it with 1/2 inch just at this side and this other down part. So I'm going to be making use of this hemming gum to join it. So here is it after using the hemming gum to turn it. As you can see, it's looking very neat because of the hemming gum. I'll proceed to join it to the neck just like this, and then I'm going to be using the facing. I've gone ahead to cut the facing for the neck because my material was not enough to cut the full lining. So I'll just go ahead to use it and turn the neck after sewing the cape to attach. So I'll just do that off the camera, and I'm also going to be using hemming gum to turn the neck so it will be very neat. I also proceed to turn the neck for the back. I've gone ahead to cut the facing also, and I'll also use the hemming gum to hem it so it will be neat. I'll advise that you use full lining if you want to achieve a better result. So for the back, I'll also go ahead to sew in my darts, and I'll do that off the camera. So this is the down part of the back. I'll just go ahead to take from 7 inches, which is going to be the zip allowance, where the zip allowance is going to start from, and then I'll sew it down with about 20 inches. So this is actually based on what you want. So after sewing it, I'll go ahead to use this hemming gum to hem the down part. I'll be working with a lot of hemming gum because I did not use lining for this gown. So I'll use hemming gum to hem the down part very well, and then after joining the center of the back, I also use hemming gum to hem the slit opening. For the down part of the front side, I'll also be hemming the overlap with hemming gum so it will be very neat. And I'll also hem the down side with hemming gum also, both the overlap down part and the down part of the front. But if you are using lining, you just go ahead to use your lining to turn them. So at this point, I was trying to show you how I went about with fixing the hemming gum. I had to double the hemming gum. So I folded the hemming gum into 2 and folded the fabric like this before ironing it. So here is the upper part after turning it with the lining. See how neat it's looking, and I've gone ahead to insert hemming gum to iron it very well at that point. And this is the back after turning the neck and also taking my darts. See how neat it's looking. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to attach the down part. Here's the down part after I had used the hemming gum to hem the slit. This is the slit area. As you can see, it's looking so neat, and the downside is also neat because I used hemming gum to hem it. Take note, if you want your hemming gum to always stick for a long time, try to always double it. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to join this upper part to the down part with 1/2 inch allowance, because that was the allowance that we added. I'll just go ahead to join it and show you what I have. This is the front side after I have gone ahead to use the hemming gum to hem the overlap part as well as the down sides. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to attach the overlap to the up part as well as the side. So after that, I'll just go ahead to attach the up part to the down part. So I'll also join it with 1/2 inch, the 1/2 inch allowance that I added while cutting. This is it after joining it. So I've gone ahead to attach the sides. So the overlap part is actually open, and I'll be using hemming gum to gum it so make sure you arrange it very well. I'm going to arrange it very well, and then I'll be using hemming gum to just gum it, especially around the opening part. So I'll just go ahead to gum it now. If you don't want to use hemming gum to gum it, you could actually sew it, then try to use the button to cover the sewn part. It will still give you a very nice finishing. Well, here is how it will look like, and you're going to just be putting your button at the edge at the end of the day. So guys, we'll go ahead to join the shoulder of the back to the shoulder of the front. As you can see, I've gone ahead to join the joining of the back. So we'll go ahead to place the right side of the front to the right side of the back, and go ahead to use the facing to turn it over and join it with the half-inch allowance that we kept. So I'll just join it off the camera and show you guys. After joining it, here is what I have. I'll just go ahead to close the sides, and then also go ahead to fix the zip for the back. While closing the sides, try to make sure the joining at the half length aligns, and also take note of the measurements before closing it. So I'll do that off the camera and show you guys what I have. Here's it guys, after closing it and also fixing the zip. So the final thing we'll be working on is the sleeves, and here I have gone ahead to cut out a long sleeve pattern already. And if you don't know how to cut this, I'll drop the link to it on my description box below, so you can go ahead to check it out if you're interested in watching it. So this is actually where the length of the long sleeve is. I added extra 4 inches to the length. I would advise you use extra 6 inches because at the end of the day I noticed that the sleeves was not as long as I wanted. At the sleeves length, I also went up by 2 inches, so the 2 inches will be the point where the sleeves opening will start from. So because of how the sleeves is, I'll go ahead to open it up, and then I'll go ahead to extend the lines. And the next thing I'll do is to divide one side into 2. So I'll be taking the half of it. I'll mark it at the midpoint and draw a straight line to the armhole. Then I'll go ahead to cut it open at that line, and I'll be attaching it to the other side. This will mean that the underarm will not have any joining, but rather the joining will be at the front sleeves part. I'm gonna head to tape it down, and I've also proceeded to place it on my fabric and cut it out, adding ½ inch to the sides for joining allowance and ½ inch to the down part. At this point, I had to notch it so I can easily identify it. Here's what we have guys. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut the combination part, and I made sure to go up after the notch area by at least 1 inch. And then I've also gone ahead to cut the lining to complete it, and I added allowance for joining the combination to the lining just like you see me doing. So I'll just go ahead to join it there first. Here's it after joining it. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to turn it. So from this notch area, I will join it to the other notch part. After joining it, here's what I have. I'll just go ahead to put in my scissors at the edge. So just go ahead to put in your scissors at that edge so that it will be free just immediately after the seams. Then I also had to trim off the excesses. So after that, I proceeded to bring it out to the right side, and then I'll just go ahead to iron it. Then after that, I'll go ahead to close the joining part. So just note where this part is. You're going to use it to turn it over. Use one lining on one side and just turn it over so it will be neat. So I'm going to just do that and sew it with the ½ inch allowance I added. Note that on the pattern paper, I did not add any sewing allowance. I only added it while cutting on the fabric. So I'll just join it with the ½ inch allowance. So this is it after joining it. As you can see, this side is looking neat because I had to turn the joining part inside. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do is to iron it very well. Take note of the underarm part. So here is it after ironing it. As you can see, it's looking so neat and so beautiful. I've gone ahead to iron and also fix these other sleeves. So the last thing we are going to do is to just attach the sleeves to the armhole. So this is the dress. I'll just go ahead to attach the sleeves to the armhole. Take note that the joining part will be at the front side. So, and take note of the underarm so that you make it to align with the underarm of the body of the gown. So I'll just go ahead to join it with ½ inch, and that will be all for the sewing of this gown. Guys, here is the final look of the gown after attaching the sleeves. So the last thing I'm going to do is to fix the buttons. So we are going to just fix the buttons, one at the neck just like the inspiration, one at the neck, two at the sleeves just like this, and then the rest at this part. Note this is a cover button and I made use of size 30. So when attaching it to the down part, I gave a gap of 2 inches for each. So I'll go ahead to fix the button. So this is it after fixing the button. It's looking so neat and so beautiful. If you've watched up to this point, drop buttons on the comment section and also comment the location where you're watching from. I would like to give you a shout out in my next video. Thank you so much. And so guys, this is the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. If you've watched up to the end, don't forget to like, subscribe, and also drop a comment on the comment section if this video was of value to you. Thank you so much and see you in my next tutorial. Bye for now.